In the vast expanse of the Vega Empire, where stars whispered secrets to the nebulae and ancient worlds orbited in silent harmony, Princess Elara stood on the balcony of her crystalline palace, gazing out at the swirling cosmos. Her white hair cascaded like streams of moonlight over her porcelain skin, framing those delicate, pointed ears that marked her as one of the ethereal Vexari race. She wore a gown of shimmering silk that hugged her curvaceous form, its fabric woven from the threads of distant comets, revealing just enough to stir the imagination of any who dared look upon her. But today, her heart was heavy, burdened by the weight of an alliance forged not in passion, but in the cold forge of politics. The war with the shadowy Dravex horde had raged for centuries, draining the lifeblood from Vega's once vibrant colonies. Planets crumbled under relentless assaults, and the Vexari, with their advanced telepathic abilities and graceful ships, found themselves outmatched by the horde's brute force. Desperation led the Council to seek aid from the most unlikely source. Earth, humans, those scrappy survivors from a backwater planet, had risen from their own ashes time and again, their history a tapestry of resilience and ingenuity. And so, an alliance was proposed, one sealed by marriage. Elara, the Empire's jewel, was to wed a human warrior named Marcus, a former soldier whose reputation for tactical brilliance had reached even the stars. As the ceremonial shuttle descended toward the palace docking bay, Elara's mind raced with doubts. What could a mere human offer her people? She had heard tales of their fragility, no natural armor, no psychic shields, just flesh and bone that bruised easily. Yet, the elders insisted this union would bring peace, merging Vega's technology with humanity's unyielding spirit. She adjusted her gown, feeling the cool air brush against her skin, and steeled herself for the arrival. Marcus stepped off the shuttle with a quiet confidence that belied his origins, tall and broad-shouldered, with tousled dark hair and eyes like storm clouds. He wore a simple Earth uniform tailored to fit the occasion, sleek black with subtle armor plating that hinted at his past battles. He wasn't the hulking brute she had imagined. Instead, there was a gentleness in his gaze, a subtle smile that softened the scars on his hands. As their eyes met across the grand hall, filled with hovering dignitaries and holographic displays of swirling galaxies, Elara felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. Was it curiosity, or something more forbidden? The ceremony unfolded like a dream woven from stardust. Vows were exchanged under the glow of Vega's twin moons, their words translated seamlessly through neural implants. "I, Marcus of Earth, pledge my strength to you and your people," he said, his voice steady and warm like a hearth fire in the void. Elara echoed the promise, her telepathic aura brushing against his mind, a tentative touch that sent shivers through both of them. The crowd erupted in cheers, but in that moment, as their hands clasped, she sensed something deeper in him, a hidden reservoir of power, dormant like a supernova waiting to ignite. That night, as the palace quieted and the stars wheeled overhead, Elara led Marcus to her private chambers. The room was a sanctuary of floating orbs and silken drapes, scented with the essence of alien blooms that pulsed with bioluminescent light. She had expected awkwardness, perhaps even reluctance from this outsider. But Marcus moved with an ease that surprised her, his human warmth contrasting the cool elegance of her world. "Tell me about Earth," she murmured, pouring them glasses of luminous nectar that sparkled like liquid diamonds. He leaned back on the plush cushions, his eyes tracing the curves of her form with a respect that bordered on reverence. "Earth is chaos and beauty intertwined," he replied, his voice low and inviting. "We've fought wars that scarred our planet, but we've also built wonders from the ruins, and you're like nothing I've ever seen." His fingers brushed hers as he took the glass, sending a spark through her telepathic senses. Elara blushed, her pale skin flushing with a soft glow, a Vexari trait that betrayed her emotions. She had never been this close to an outsider, let alone one who stirred such unfamiliar desires. As they talked into the night, sharing stories of battles won and losses endured, the alliance began to feel less like a duty and more like destiny. But peace was fragile, a thin veil over brewing storms. Whispers reached Elara's ears of dissenters within the Empire, nobles who viewed the human union as a dilution of Vexari purity. And beyond the borders, the Dravex horde lurked, their insectoid fleets probing for weaknesses. Marcus, sensing her unease, pulled her closer, his arm wrapping around her waist with a protective firmness. "Whatever comes," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear, "we face it together." In that embrace, Elara felt a thrill she couldn't name, part fear, part excitement, as if the stars themselves were aligning for something extraordinary. The days that followed blurred into a whirlwind of diplomatic banquets and strategic councils. Marcus integrated seamlessly, his human ingenuity shining through in subtle ways. He He suggested modifications to Vega's shield generators, drawing from Earth's rudimentary but effective tech, and the engineers marveled at his insights. Elara watched him with growing admiration, her initial skepticism melting into affection. During quiet moments, they stole away to the palace gardens, where floating vines intertwined like lovers' hands. There, under the canopy of glowing flora, their conversations turned intimate. One evening, as they wandered the paths, Elara confessed her fears. "My people see you as weak, Marcus. They don't understand the fire in your soul." He stopped, turning to face her, his hands cupping her face gently. "Strength isn't always in the stars or psychic waves. Sometimes, it's in the will to endure." Their lips met then, a tentative kiss that ignited like a fusion reactor. Her body responded instinctively, pressing against his, the contrast of her soft curves against his solid frame sending waves of sensation through her. It was more than alliance, it was awakening. Yet, shadows loomed. Scouts reported Dravex incursions near the outer colonies, testing the new peace. Elara's council urged caution, but Marcus advocated for a show of unity, a joint patrol to demonstrate the alliance's might. Reluctantly, they agreed, and soon, Elara and Marcus boarded the flagship Aurora, a sleek vessel that hummed with Vexari energy. As they launched into the void, the crew eyed Marcus warily, their telepathic murmurs buzzing like distant static, but Elara stood by his side, her hand in his, a symbol of hope. The patrol was meant to be routine, a display of solidarity, but as they approached the nebula border, alarms blared. Dravex raiders emerged from the mist, their chitinous ships swarming like angry hornets. "Battle stations," Elara commanded, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. Marcus moved to the tactical console, his fingers flying over the controls with a precision that silenced the doubters. "Redirect power to forward shields," he ordered, his tone commanding yet calm. The first volley rocked the Aurora, but under his guidance, they evaded the worst. Elara fought alongside him, her psychic abilities amplifying the ship's weapons, sending bolts of energy that shredded enemy hulls. But the horde was relentless, their numbers overwhelming. A massive Dravex dreadnought loomed, its cannons charging for a fatal strike. In that moment of peril, Marcus's eyes hardened. "Elara, trust me," he said, pulling her close for a brief, fervent kiss that tasted of urgency and promise. Then, he dashed to the engineering bay, overriding protocols with human codes from his implant. What happened next would become legend. Marcus unleashed a hidden program, a relic from Earth's Black Ops wars, hacking into the dreadnought systems remotely. The enemy ship convulsed, its own weapons turning inward in a cascade of explosions. The crew cheered as the horde retreated, but Elara stared at her husband in awe. "How?" she whispered. He smiled faintly, wiping sweat from his brow. "Humans have our secrets too." Back on Vega Prime, celebrations erupted. Marcus was hailed as a hero, his weakness revealed as a facade for unparalleled adaptability. Elara, in the privacy of their chambers, traced the lines of his body with wonder. "You hid so much," she murmured, her fingers exploring the scars that told stories of survival. Their lovemaking that night was tender yet intense, a fusion of worlds, her telepathic caresses mingling with his earthly passion, leaving them both breathless and entwined. But peace's foundation cracked subtly. Rumors spread of an ancient enemy stirring, one older than the Dravex, a forgotten force from Vega's myths. Elara confided in Marcus during a stolen moment in the throne room, her body leaning into his as they pored over holographic maps. "The legends speak of the Void Walkers, beings that devour stars. If they are real," he pulled her into his arms, his strength the anchor. "Then we'll face them, together." As weeks turned to months, their bond deepened. Elara introduced Marcus to Vexari customs, like the ritual dances under Aurel skies, where bodies moved in synchronized grace. He, in turn, shared human traditions, simple things like cooking meals from replicated Earth ingredients, laughter filling the air as she tried spicy foods that made her eyes water. Their intimacy grew, moments of passion stolen in hidden alcoves, where her glowing skin illuminated their shared ecstasy. Yet, tension simmered. A faction of Vexari purists plotted in shadows, viewing Marcus as an intruder. During a grand ball, an assassin struck, a poison dart aimed at Elara. Marcus's instincts kicked in, he shoved her aside, taking the hit himself. As he collapsed, pain searing through his veins, Elara's scream echoed. "No!" She cradled him, her psychic energy pouring into him, fighting the toxin. In the medical bay, healers worked frantically. Marcus hovered between life and death, his human physiology baffling them, but Elara refused to leave his side, her hand clasped in his, whispering promises of forever. As he stirred, weak but alive, she kissed him fiercely. "You saved me again." He grinned through the pain. That's what husbands do. Recovery brought them closer. their nights filled with whispered confessions and exploratory touches that bridged their differences. Elara marveled at his resilience, how his body healed with a stubbornness that defied logic. In return, he adored her otherworldly beauty, the way her ears twitched when she was aroused, her curves fitting perfectly against him. But the true test loomed. Intelligence reports confirmed the Void Walker's awakening, a swarm of ethereal entities feeding on planetary cores. The Empire mobilized, but fear gripped the people. Elara addressed the council, Marcus by her side. With humanity's spirit, we will prevail. Skeptics murmured, but his presence inspired the warriors. As the fleet assembled, Elara and Marcus shared a quiet moment on the bridge. "If we don't make it," she said, her voice trembling. He silenced her with a kiss, deep and reassuring. "We will, for us." The battle erupted in the heart of a collapsing star system. Void Walkers manifested as writhing shadows, siphoning energy from ships. Vega's fleet faltered, their psychic barriers crumbling. Elara channeled her power, but it wasn't enough. Then Marcus activated his hidden might, a prototype suit from Earth, infused with nanotech that amplified human potential. He launched into the fray, his form blazing with energy. Dodging tendrils of darkness, he struck at the core of the swarm, his weapons primitive railguns enhanced with Vexari crystals, tearing through the void. For Elara, he roared, his voice broadcasting across the fleet. The Vexari rallied, inspired by this human's fury. Elara watched from the aurora, her heart swelling with pride and love. As the last walker dissipated, the stars stabilized. Victory was theirs. In the aftermath, as they returned to Vega Prime amid cheers, Elara pulled Marcus into an embrace. "You are our savior." He held her as the echoes of victory faded into the velvet night of Vega Prime. Elara and Marcus retreated to the sanctuary of their shared quarters, the palace walls humming softly with the residual energy of the celebrations below. The air was thick with the scent of blooming night orchids, their petals unfurling like secrets under the dim glow of floating lanterns. Elara's heart still raced from the battle's adrenaline, but now it pounded for a different reason. Marcus's presence filled the room, his human warmth a tangible force that drew her in, making her skin tingle with anticipation. She watched him as he shed his battle-worn suit, the fabric whispering against his skin, revealing the taut muscles etched from years of Earth's unforgiving conflicts. His scars, faint lines mapping out stories of survival, only heightened her fascination, marks of a resilience her people, with their flawless exteriors, could never fully comprehend. She approached him slowly, her gown trailing like a comet's tail, the sheer material clinging to her curves in ways that accentuated the graceful sway of her hips. Her white hair shimmered under the light, framing her pointed ears that twitched ever so slightly, a subtle sign of her growing desire. "Marcus," she breathed, her voice a melodic whisper laced with the psychic undercurrent that allowed her emotions to brush against his mind like a gentle caress. He turned, his storm-gray eyes locking onto hers, and in that gaze, she saw the fire that had turned the tide against the Void Walkers. It was a fire that now burned for her, promising depths she had only begun to explore. Without a word, he closed the distance, his hands finding her waist with a possessiveness that sent shivers racing along her spine. The contrast was intoxicating, his rough, calloused palms against the smoothness of her porcelain skin, warm and insistent. She leaned into him, her body molding perfectly to his, the soft swell of her breasts pressing against his chest as their breaths mingled. "You've awakened something in me," she confessed, her lips hovering inches from his, the air between them charged like the prelude to a stellar storm. Her telepathic aura enveloped him, sharing flashes of her longing, images of tangled limbs and whispered promises that made his pulse quicken. He captured her mouth in a kiss that was anything but gentle, a surge of passion that mirrored the chaos of the cosmos they had just defended. His tongue danced with hers, exploring with a hunger that left her gasping, her small ears flushing with heat, a Vexari response that betrayed how deeply he affected her. She could feel the strength in him, not just the physical power that had shattered ethereal foes, but an inner fortitude that made her feel both safe and utterly vulnerable. Her hands roamed his back, tracing the ridges of muscle, pulling him closer as if to merge their worlds into one. They moved toward the expansive bed, a platform suspended by anti-grav fields that made it feel like floating among the stars. Marcus lifted her effortlessly, his arms flexing with that hidden might she had witnessed in battle, and laid her down with a reverence that bordered on worship. The gown slipped from her shoulders, exposing more of her luminous skin, and he paused, his eyes drinking in the sight of her, curves that invited touch, a body designed by evolution for grace, but now ignited by desire. "You're beautiful," he murmured, his voice rough with emotion, as his fingers trailed down her neck, over the elegant slope of her collarbone, lingering at the edge of her gown's neckline. Elara arched into his touch, a soft moan escaping her lips as his hand ventured lower, cupping the fullness of her breast with a gentleness that contrasted his warrior's build. Her skin glowed faintly, a bioluminescent reaction to arousal, casting a soft blue hue over them both. She reached for him, her nails, sharp and delicate like polished crystals, grazing his chest, eliciting a low growl from deep within him. The sound sent a thrill through her, amplifying her own need. Their minds touched again, her psychic essence weaving into his thoughts, sharing sensations that blurred the line between them. She felt his heartbeat thundering, mirroring her own, and in that connection, the suspense built like a nebula on the verge of collapse, pregnant with potential energy. But even in this intimate cocoon, the whispers of threat lingered at the edges of their awareness. Earlier that evening, during the victory feast, a messenger had arrived with encrypted holo-reports from the outer rims, anomalies in the nebula borders, ships vanishing without trace, signs that the Voidwalkers might not have been fully eradicated, or worse, that something ancient and more insidious stirred in their wake. Elara had pushed the thoughts aside, determined to savor this moment, but now, as Marcus's lips trailed fire down her throat, she couldn't shake the undercurrent of unease. What if their peace was merely the calm before a greater storm? The question hovered, adding a layer of urgency to their embrace, as if each touch could be their last. He sensed her distraction, his human intuition sharp as any Vexari telepathy. "Stay with me," he whispered against her skin, his breath hot and teasing as he nipped gently at her earlobe, sending sparks of pleasure radiating outward. She gasped, her body responding instinctively, legs parting slightly as he settled between them. The fabric of her gown hiked up, revealing the smooth expanse of her thighs, and his hand followed the path, fingers dancing lightly over sensitive flesh. The erotic tension coiled tighter, suspenseful in its slow build, each caress a promise of more to come. Elara's hands tangled in his hair, pulling him down for another kiss, deeper this time, her tongue exploring with a boldness she hadn't known she possessed. As their bodies pressed together, the differences between them only heightened the allure. Her skin, cool and silken, warmed under his touch, while his heat seeped into her, awakening sensations foreign yet addictive. She wrapped her legs around his waist, drawing him nearer, feeling the evidence of his arousal against her core, a hard, insistent pressure that made her pulse with need. "Marcus, please," she pleaded, her voice husky, a word laced with psychic urgency that amplified her desire in his mind. He obliged, his hand slipping beneath the remnants of her gown, finding the center of her heat with unerring accuracy. His fingers moved with expert precision, circling and teasing, building a rhythm that had her writhing beneath him. The room seemed to pulse with their shared energy, the floating lanterns dimming as if to grant them privacy, casting shadows that danced across their forms. Elara's breaths came in shallow pants, her pointed ears quivering with each wave of pleasure. She could feel the suspense mounting, not just in their intimacy, but in the unspoken fears that tomorrow might bring. Would the alliance hold? Could they face whatever lurked in the void? But in this moment, those questions fueled her passion, making every touch more intense, every gasp more profound. Marcus shifted, his body aligning with hers, the anticipation electric. He paused, eyes searching hers for consent, and she nodded, her telepathic bond flooding him with affirmation. As he entered her slowly, a union of worlds in the most primal sense, she cried out softly, the sensation overwhelming, a perfect blend of fullness and connection. They moved together, a dance as old as time yet utterly new in this interstellar context, her curves yielding to his strength, his movements adapting to her responses with that human ingenuity she adored. Time stretched, the erotic haze enveloping them, suspense woven into every thrust and sigh. Whispers of danger outside only intensified the intimacy within, as if defying the universe itself. Elara clung to him, her nails digging into his back, marking him as hers, while his hands explored her body with a possessiveness that thrilled her. Peaks built and crested, waves of ecstasy crashing over them, leaving them breathless and entwined. Yet, as they lay spent in each other's arms, the holo-communicator on the bedside table flickered to life unbidden, a soft chime that pierced the afterglow. Elara's eyes widened, her body still humming from their passion, as an encrypted message scrolled across the screen. The shadows return, coordinates enclosed, prepare for extraction. Marcus tensed beside her, his protective instincts flaring. The peace they had fought for was fracturing, and the night, once a haven, now brimmed with foreboding. She turned to him, her white hair disheveled and alluring, skin still aglow. "What does it mean?" she whispered, fear mingling with the remnants of desire. He pulled her close, his lips brushing her forehead. "It means we're not done fighting, but we'll face it together." As the message looped, the suspense thickened, the erotic interlude giving way to the pull of destiny, drawing them back into the stars' embrace. Their respite shattered further when alarms blared faintly from the palace corridors, distant but insistent. Marcus rose, his naked form silhouetted against the window, muscles rippling as he donned his suit. Elara followed, her gown hastily rearranged, the erotic haze lingering in her movements, making her steps graceful yet urgent. They hurried to the command center, hands brushing in silent reassurance, the bond between them stronger than ever. Upon arrival, Council was in chaos. Holo displays showed flickering images of a new anomaly, a rift in space-time near the nebula's edge, spewing tendrils that resembled the Void Walkers but twisted with an unfamiliar energy. "It's evolving," an advisor stammered, his telepathic field jittery. Elara felt a chill, her recent intimacy with Marcus making the threat feel all the more personal. He studied the scans, his mind racing with human strategies unconventional, adaptive. "We need to investigate," he declared, his voice cutting through the panic. Eyes turned to him, some with doubt, others with newfound respect. Elara nodded, standing by his side, her hand slipping into his. "Lead us, my love." As the fleet prepared for departure, the erotic tension of their private moments transformed into a shared resolve, suspense hanging like a veil over what lay ahead. The journey to the rift was fraught with silence, the Aurora's bridge alive with tension. Elara and Marcus stole glances, their bodies still attuned from the night before, a subtle brush of fingers sending sparks. In a quiet alcove during a shift change, they shared a stolen kiss fierce, laden with unspoken fears. "Whatever comes," she murmured against his lips, her curves pressing into him. "Remember this." He held her tight, the erotic undercurrent pulsing beneath the surface, fueling their determination. As the rift loomed on the view screen, a swirling maw of darkness, the true test began. Ships vanished into its grasp, screams echoing through comms. Marcus's hidden might stirred again, his eyes narrowing. Time to show them what humans are made of. Their union blossomed into legend, a testament to love's power across the stars. But whispers of new threats lingered, hinting at adventures yet to come. For now, in each other's arms, they found peace. The rift yawned before them like a wound in the fabric of reality, its edges flickering with unnatural lightning that crackled across the view screen, illuminating the bridge in erratic bursts of purple and black. Elara's hand tightened in Marcus's, her psychic senses recoiling from the malevolent energy emanating from the void, a hunger that whispered promises of oblivion. The Aurora shuddered as it neared the anomaly, the ship's hull groaning under the strain of gravitational distortions that tugged at its core like invisible claws. Crew members exchanged tense glances, their telepathic links buzzing with a mix of fear and resolve. But Marcus stood unflinching, his jaw set in that familiar human determination that had already saved them once. "Hold steady," he commanded, his voice at anchor in the storm, cutting through the rising din of alarms. "We're going in." As the flagship plunged into the rift's maw, reality warped around them. Stars stretched into streaks of light, and the hum of the engines warped into a dissonant symphony that set Elara's teeth on edge. She clung to Marcus, her body still echoing the warmth of their stolen kiss in the alcove, a reminder of the life they fought to protect. But now, that intimacy fueled a deeper urgency. She could feel his pulse racing through their touch, syncing with her own in a rhythm that defied the chaos. "What if it's a trap?" she murmured, her voice barely audible over the escalating roar. He squeezed her hand, his eyes never leaving the swirling vortex ahead. "Then we spring it and turn it against them." The ship emerged into a pocket dimension, a surreal expanse where shattered planets floated like debris in a cosmic junkyard, their surfaces crawling with shadowy forms that defied description. The Void Walkers had evolved, or perhaps merged with something older, their ethereal bodies now fused with biomechanical horrors, tendrils of dark matter laced with glowing circuits that pulsed like veins in a living machine. Scans revealed a central nexus, a colossal structure at the heart of the rift, throbbing with energy that threatened to unravel the surrounding space. "That's the source," an officer reported, his voice trembling. "If we destroy it, the rift collapses, but so might we." Thrill coursed through Elara as Marcus sprang into action, his hidden might awakening in full force. He donned his prototype suit, the nanotech humming to life, enveloping him in a sheath of adaptive armor that shimmered like liquid mercury. It interfaced seamlessly with the ship's systems, amplifying his commands as he barked orders: divert auxiliary power to weapons, flank the nexus, use the debris for cover. The fleet followed, Vexari pilots maneuvering with graceful precision, but it was Marcus's unorthodox tactics that turned the tide. He piloted a fighter drone remotely, weaving through the shadows with hairpin turns inspired by Earth's dogfights, drawing fire away from the Aurora. The battle ignited in a blaze of drama. lasers slicing through the void like fiery swords, clashing against the walkers' defenses in explosions that lit the darkness like newborn suns. Elara channeled her psychic energy from the bridge, erecting barriers that deflected incoming strikes, her mind straining under the assault. But curiosity gnawed at her. What were these evolved beings? Flashes of ancient memories invaded her thoughts, stolen from the Nexus, visions of a long-forgotten civilization that had birthed the walkers as guardians, only for them to corrupt into devourers. They're not just monsters, she gasped to Marcus over the comms. They were protectors once, twisted by time. Surprise struck like a thunderbolt when a massive walker entity latched onto the Aurora, its tendrils piercing the hull with a screech of rending metal. Alarms wailed as atmosphere vented, and crew members scrambled to seal breaches. Marcus didn't hesitate. He ejected from the bridge in a personal pod, suit propelling him toward the beast. "Marcus, no!" Elara cried, her heart lurching as she watched him vanish into the fray. Thrilling tension gripped the crew as his vital signs flickered on the monitors, the pod dodging projectiles with impossible agility. Out in the void, Marcus grappled with the entity, his suit's nanoblades extending like claws from his fists. He sliced into the tendril, sparks flying as biomechanical fluid sprayed into space, freezing instantly. The walker roared, a psychic scream that echoed in every mind aboard the fleet, revealing a vulnerability, a core node glowing at its center. "Target the hearts," he broadcasted, his voice strained but triumphant. Fighters converged, but the entity countered, summoning a swarm of smaller drones that buzzed like angry insects, overwhelming the defenses. Dramatic climax built as Elara, driven by a surge of love and fear, left the bridge against protocol. She suited up in a Vexari exosuit, its elegant design enhancing her psychic abilities, and launched after him. "I'm coming," she whispered through their bond, her white hair tucked under the helmet, ears pressing against the padding. The void embraced her, cold and unforgiving, but her determination burned hotter. She arrived just as Marcus was ensnared, tendrils wrapping around his pod, crushing it slowly. With a psychic blast, she shattered the grip, freeing him in a burst of energy that sent shards flying. Together, they fought back to back, a symphony of human grit and alien grace. Marcus's railgun barked, punching holes through drones, while Elara's telekinetic waves hurled debris like missiles. The thrill was electric. Each near miss heightening the stakes, a drone grazed her suit, tearing a gash that exposed her skin to the vacuum, but she sealed it with a thought, pain sharpening her focus. Curiosity deepened as they neared the Nexus. Holographic echoes revealed a surprising truth. The walkers weren't invaders but echoes of Vega's ancestors, corrupted experiments from eons ago. Our own creation. Elara realized aloud, shock rippling through her. "We made this horror." The revelation fueled Marcus's rage. "Then we'll unmake it," he growled, charging forward. In a surprising twist, the Nexus responded not with aggression but with a plea. A psychic projection manifested, a spectral Vexari figure, ancient and weary. "We sought immortality," it intoned, "but became monsters. End us, free us." The curiosity peaked. Were they fighting villains or victims? But the entity lashed out, overriding the plea with primal fury, forcing their hand. Thrilling sequences unfolded as they infiltrated the Nexus core, dodging automated defenses that fired arcs of disintegrating energy. Marcus's suit adapted, cloaking them in stealth fields borrowed from Earth tech, allowing them to slip past Guardians. Elara's heart pounded, the drama of their bond amplifying every step, his hand on her shoulder, a silent vow amid the peril. They reached the heart, a pulsating orb of corrupted energy, and Marcus planted a human-made overload device, its timer ticking down. Escape became a race against collapse. The Nexus quaked, shadows converging in a final, desperate assault. Surprising betrayal emerged when a council advisor's voice crackled over comms. "Abort, that's our heritage." Revealing purists had known the truth and sought to harness the power. Elara's eyes widened in betrayal, but Marcus pulled her along. "No time for politics, run." They burst free as explosions chained through the structure, the rift imploding in a spectacular vortex. The fleet barely escaped, hulls scorched, but victorious. Back on the Aurora, Elara collapsed into Marcus's arms, the climax's adrenaline crashing into relief. "You were incredible," she whispered, her body trembling against his. He held her close, the surprising layers of the enemy adding depth to their triumph. But questions lingered. Who else knew? What other secrets hid in Vega's past? As the ship limped home, the crew hailed them as saviors, but Elara sensed undercurrents of doubt. In their quarters, amidst the hum of repairs, she turned to Marcus, curiosity burning. "What else are you hiding?" He smiled enigmatically, pulling her into a kiss that promised more revelations. The thrill of survival mingled with the drama of unspoken truths, leaving them on the edge of new horizons. Yet, as stars streaked by, a faint signal pinged from the debris, a survivor, or a harbinger. The curiosity tugged, surprising in its persistence, hinting that their saga was far from over. Elara traced his scars, her touch lingering, the bond between them a beacon in the uncertainty. Together, they faced the unknown, hearts entwined in a dance of fate. The palace awaited, but so did trials. Whispers of conspiracy grew, the purists' betrayal exposing fractures in the empire. Marcus, ever the hero, began piecing together intel, his human logic unraveling threads. Elara joined him, their partnership a thrilling fusion, minds and bodies aligned. In a quiet moment, as they pored over data, she leaned in, her curves brushing his arm, reigniting sparks. "Whatever comes next," she said, voice laced with drama, "we conquer it." He nodded, the climax's echo fueling their resolve. But surprise awaited in the signal's decode, coordinates to a hidden archive, guarded by remnants. Curiosity ignited anew, promising thrills beyond imagination. As the coordinates from the decoded signal burned into the Aurora's navigation console, Elara and Marcus exchanged a loaded glance, the weight of unspoken secrets hanging between them like the dense fog of a nebula. The ship's repairs were hasty, patches humming with temporary energy fields, but there was no time to linger in the safety of Vega Prime's orbit. The purists' betrayal had sent ripples through the council, whispers turning to accusations. Now this mysterious archive beckoned like a siren's call, promising answers that could either mend the empire or shatter it beyond repair. Elara's pointed ears twitched with unease, her white hair still tousled from the battle's aftermath, framing a face etched with determination. She adjusted her form-fitting exosuit, its elegant lines hugging her curves in a way that blended functionality with unintended allure, drawing Marcus's eye despite the gravity of the moment. "We can't trust anyone else with this," she said, her voice a dramatic undertone that echoed the rising stakes. Marcus nodded, his hand lingering on her lower back, a touch that grounded her amid the chaos, reminding her of the passion that had forged their unbreakable bond. They set course for the archive, a forgotten outpost buried in the asteroid belt of Urindor, a desolate sector long abandoned after ancient mining disasters. The journey was tense, the fleet reduced to a skeleton crew loyal only to Elara, handpicked to avoid further leaks. Drama heightened with every passing hour, sensor sweeps revealed phantom echoes, ghost signals that mimicked Dravex scouts but vanished like smoke. "They are watching us," Marcus muttered during a late-night strategy session in their cramped quarters, holographic maps casting eerie glows across his chiseled features. Elara leaned over the display, her body brushing his in the confined space, the proximity stirring memories of their intimate escapes. But now, it amplified the pressure, her telepathic aura picking up his underlying worry, a storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. An awkward situation unfolded when they docked at a neutral refueling station en route, a bustling hub of interstellar traders where Vexari elegance clashed with the rough and tumble of alien species from across the galaxy. Elara, ever the princess, insisted on negotiating for supplies herself. Her gown swapped for a more practical yet still revealing outfit that accentuated her porcelain skin and graceful form. Marcus accompanied her, his human build standing out like a beacon among the tentacled merchants and scaled hagglers. As they bartered with a burly Zoveran vendor for energy cells, the aliens' multiple eyes fixated on Elara's pointed ears, mistaking them for a sign of royalty worth exploiting. "Ah, fair lady of the stars," the Zoveran boomed in a gravelly translator voice. "For such exquisite features, I offer a discount if your companion here proves his worth in our traditional arm wrestle." Marcus blinked, caught off guard, while Elara's cheeks flushed with that soft bioluminescent glow, her ears pinning back in embarrassment. "That's not necessary," she interjected quickly, but the crowd had gathered, hooting and placing bets. Drama escalated as Marcus, not one to back down, rolled up his sleeve with a wry grin. "All right, let's do this, for the discount." The match was comically lopsided at first, the Zoveran's massive arm, lined with suction cups, slammed down with force, but Marcus's hidden nanotech subtly kicked in, his muscles augmenting just enough to hold steady. The awkwardness peaked when a suction cup latched onto his forearm mid-struggle, yanking his shirt askew and exposing a scar from an old earth wound. "What sorcery is this?" The Zoveran yelped, slipping in surprise as Marcus pinned him. Laughter erupted from the onlookers, Elara covering her mouth to hide a smile, the humor diffusing the tension like a well-timed jest in a tragedy. "Humans and their tricks," she teased later, her hand slipping into his as they loaded the supplies, the moment lightening their spirits amid the looming peril. "Back aboard." The humor lingered in quiet chuckles during dinner, a replicated Earth meal of pasta that Marcus insisted on preparing, twirling forks in a way that baffled the Vexari crew. "You eat with sticks?" one officer asked, fumbling with the utensil and sending sauce flying onto his uniform. Elara giggled, a rare sound that warmed Marcus's heart. But the drama resurfaced when an encrypted hail interrupted, a message from a council defector, warning of an ambush at Urindor. "The purists have allies in the shadows." The voice crackled, cutting out abruptly. Elara's expression darkened, her curvaceous form tensing as she paced the bridge, the elegant sway of her hips now a restless rhythm. "We turn back, we lose everything," she declared, her voice laced with dramatic resolve. Marcus pulled her aside, his arms encircling her waist in a protective hold. "Then we don't turn back, but we go in smart, human smart." The approach to Urindor was a masterclass in heightened drama, asteroids tumbling like dice in a gambler's hand, forcing evasive maneuvers that tested the ship's limits. Sensors picked up purist vessels lurking in the debris field, cloaked but not invisible to Marcus's enhanced scans. "They're waiting to pounce," he warned, his tone thrillingly urgent. Elara nodded, her psychic abilities extending to probe their intentions, a web of deceit aimed at claiming the archive for themselves. An awkward hitch arose when their cloaking device malfunctioned mid-maneuver, a glitch from the hasty repairs that left them exposed for a heart-stopping moment. "Of all times," Elara exclaimed, her ears flattening in frustration as alarms blared. Marcus dove for the console, fingers flying in a frantic override, muttering Earth curses that the translator rendered hilariously literal, stubborn as a mule on steroids. The crew stifled laughs, the humor a brief spark in the darkness, as he jury-rigged a fix with a makeshift circuit from his suit's spares. They slipped through, docking at the archive's derelict entrance, a massive vault door etched with ancient Vexari runes that glowed faintly under Elara's touch. Inside, the facility was a labyrinth of forgotten knowledge, dusty holocrystals stacked like forgotten tomes, air thick with the scent of stale recyclers. Drama intensified as they delved deeper, lights flickering to reveal murals depicting the Walker's creation, Vexari scientists meddling with void energies, their hubris birthing the monsters. Elara's hand trembled on Marcus's arm, her body pressing close for comfort, the revelations shaking her to her core. "My ancestors, they doomed us all," she whispered, tears glistening on her pale skin. An awkward encounter added levity when they triggered a security hologram, a stern, ancient Vexari guardian projecting stern warnings. "Intruders, state your lineage or face disintegration." It boomed. Elara recited her royal bloodline flawlessly, but when it turned to Marcus, he shrugged. Marcus from Earth, descendant of pizza lovers and rock and roll." The hologram paused, processing the unfamiliar data, then glitched comically, its form warping into a loop of confusion. "Error, human protocol not found. Access, granted." They burst into laughter, the absurdity easing the drama's grip, Elara's curves shaking with mirth as she leaned on him. "Only you could charm a machine," she said, planting a quick kiss on his cheek. But humor faded as they reached the core chamber, a spherical room pulsing with data streams. There, amidst the glow, a purist ambush sprang, cloaked figures emerging from hidden panels, weapons humming to life. "The archive is ours," their leader snarled, a former advisor with eyes blazing fanaticism. Drama peaked in the ensuing skirmish, lasers crisscrossing the air, Elara's psychic blasts hurling foes against walls, her elegant form twisting with lethal grace. Marcus unleashed his might, nanoblades whirring as he disarmed attackers with precision strikes, his movements a blend of human brawling and tech-enhanced speed. In the chaos, an awkward tumble occurred when a blast sent Elara sprawling into Marcus, their bodies entangling in a heap that was equal parts protective and unintentionally intimate, her curves pressed against him, ears brushing his neck. "Not the time," she huffed, blushing furiously, but he grinned through the pain of a grazed shoulder. "Hey, any excuse to hold you." The quip drew a reluctant smile, injecting humor into the fray as they fought back-to-back, turning the tide. They subdued the purists, binding them with energy cuffs, but the leader's final words heightened the drama. "You think this ends here? The true threat awakens beyond the void." As alarms wailed from a self-destruct sequence he triggered, Elara and Marcus grabbed key holocrystals, racing through collapsing corridors, debris rained down, forcing dodges and leaps that tested their synchronicity, her telepathy guiding his steps, his strength boosting her over gaps. They escaped narrowly, the outpost exploding in a fireball that lit the asteroid belt like a funeral pyre. Back on the Aurora, gasping for breath, Elara collapsed against Marcus, her body molding to his in exhaustion and relief. "We have the data," she murmured, her hand tracing his jaw, but the leader's warning lingered, drama coiling tighter, awkward questions bubbling, what lurked beyond, and how would it test their bond? As they analyzed the crystals en route home, fragments revealed surprising alliances, purists colluding with external forces, hints of a greater conspiracy. Elara's ears perked with curiosity, but fatigue led to a humorous mishap. Marcus, trying to brew coffee in the Vexari replicator, produced a bubbling mess that overflowed, staining her gown. Earth's finest, he joked, wiping it off her curves with mock solemnity, their laughter echoing as drama simmered beneath. The return to Vega Prime loomed, fraught with political minefields. Elara addressed the crew, her voice dramatic and inspiring, while Marcus stood sentinel, his presence a humorous anomaly in the sea of ethereal Vexari. Our human hero, one whispered, eliciting chuckles. Yet, as council summons arrived, the stakes rose, trials awaited, alliances fracturing. In private, Elara pulled Marcus into an embrace, her lips finding his in a kiss that blended drama with desire. Whatever comes, she breathed, her body arching against him, we face it as one. He held her, the awkward blend of worlds feeling right, humor in their differences fueling the fire. But the crystals held one more secret, coordinates to a forbidden world, where the true threat slumbered. Drama heightened, awkward realizations dawning, their journey was just beginning. As the crystal's final revelation pulsed on the holographic display, coordinates etched in ancient code pointing to the forbidden world of Nethuria. A shadowed orb shrouded in perpetual twilight where legends spoke of slumbering titans, Elara felt a shiver trace down her spine, not just from the chill of impending danger, but from the electric closeness of Marcus beside her. The Aurora's bridge was dimly lit now. The crew dismissed for a brief respite after the ordeal at Urindor, leaving them alone with the hum of the engines and the vast starfield beyond the viewport. Her body still hummed with the adrenaline of their narrow escape, her curves aching from the exertion, and she turned to him, her white hair catching the soft glow like a halo, her pointed ears perking slightly as her telepathic senses brushed against his resolve. Nethuria. It's said to be a graveyard of empires, she murmured, her voice laced with a mix of awe and trepidation, stepping closer until the heat of his form radiated through her thin command attire. Marcus reached out, his fingers intertwining with hers, pulling her gently into his embrace, the drama of their discoveries melting into a more personal urgency. Then we'll wake whatever's sleeping there and put it back to bed. He replied, his tone steady, but his eyes darkened with a hunger that mirrored her own growing need. In that quiet interlude, as the ship charted its course through the asteroid remnants, the weight of their journey pressed upon them, transforming shared glances into something deeper, more insistent. Elara's hand slid up his arm, tracing the firm lines of muscle beneath his suit, a reminder of the strength that had carried them through battles and betrayals. The awkward humor of their earlier mishaps, the spilled coffee, the tangled fall during the ambush, faded into the background, replaced by a simmering tension that had been building since their first union. She leaned in, her lips brushing his in a kiss that started soft, exploratory, but quickly deepened, her body pressing against him with a natural grace that invited more. The forbidden world's coordinates could wait a few hours. Right now, the pull between them was a force as powerful as any gravitational anomaly. They retreated to their private quarters, the door sealing with a soft hiss that shut out the universe's chaos. The room was bathed in the warm amber light of simulated starlight, casting flattering shadows over Elara's porcelain skin as she slowly unzipped her suit, letting it pool at her feet like discarded worries. Her form was a vision of ethereal beauty, curves that flowed with an otherworldly elegance, her small, pointed ears flushing with a subtle warmth that signaled her arousal. Marcus watched, transfixed, his own clothing shed with deliberate care, revealing the sculpted planes of his body, marked by the faint scars that told tales of human endurance. He approached her with a reverence that made her heart flutter, his hands finding her waist, drawing her close until there was no space left between them. "You've been my anchor through all this," he whispered, his breath warm against her neck, sending delightful shivers cascading down her spine. Their connection deepened as they moved to the bed, a plush expanse that seemed to cradle them like the void itself. Elara's telepathic aura enveloped him, sharing waves of sensation that amplified every touch, every caress. She arched into his hands as they explored her, fingers tracing the soft swells and valleys of her body with a gentleness that built anticipation slowly. Deliciously. A soft gasp escaped her lips when he found particularly sensitive spots, her ears twitching in response, heightening the intimacy of the moment. Marcus responded in kind, his movements guided by her subtle cues, their bodies syncing in a rhythm that felt both instinctive and profound. The air grew heavy with their shared breaths, the subtle sounds of their union blending with the distant thrum of the ship, a symphony of closeness that pushed aside the looming threats. As passion built, Elara wrapped her legs around him, drawing him nearer, their forms intertwining in a dance of mutual surrender. The sensations were intense yet tender, a fusion of her psychic energy with his physical presence, creating sparks that radiated through them both. She felt the warmth of him, the way he filled her completely, not just physically but emotionally, bridging the gap between their worlds. Her hands roamed his back, nails grazing lightly, eliciting low, appreciative sounds from him that sent thrills through her core. They moved together, lost in the ebb and flow, each crest bringing them closer to a shared release that left them breathless, bodies glistening with the effort of their connection. In those peak moments, the drama of their quest seemed distant, replaced by the pure, affirming joy of being truly seen and desired. Afterward, they lay entwined, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, a human rhythm that grounded her amid the stars. Elara's skin still tingled with afterglow, her curves nestled perfectly against him, and she traced lazy patterns on his skin, savoring the quiet intimacy. In all the legends of Vega, I never imagined finding this with someone from another world. She confessed softly, her voice husky from their exertions. Marcus chuckled lightly, his arm tightening around her, fingers playing with strands of her white hair. And I never thought I'd be romancing a princess in the middle of a galactic conspiracy. Life's full of surprises. The light humor in his words eased any lingering tension, reminding her of the awkward, endearing moments that had woven into their bond. But even in this haven, the pull of duty crept back in. The holocrystal on the bedside table flickered with an update, the ship's AI confirming their approach to Nethuria's outer defenses, automated sentinels that guarded the forbidden planet like silent watchers. Elara sat up slightly, her body shifting against his in a way that stirred renewed affection, but she focused on the display. "We need to prepare," she said, though her tone held a reluctance to leave their cocoon. Marcus propped himself up, kissing her shoulder before rising, his movements efficient yet tender. As they dressed, sharing stolen touches and glances, the intimacy of the night fortified them against what lay ahead, the slumbering threat that could unravel everything they had fought for. The bridge welcomed them back with a flurry of activity, the crew reporting anomalies in Nethuria's atmosphere, swirling storms that masked energy signatures, hinting at artificial interference. Elara took her station, her command presence restored, but the subtle flush on her cheeks and the way her ears perked at Marcus's voice betrayed the lingering effects of their private time. He analyzed the scans, his human ingenuity spotting patterns the Vexari systems overlooked. Hidden entry points through the storm wall. "We'll breach here," he pointed, his finger tracing a holographic path that wove through the chaos like a thread through fabric. As the Aurora dove into the maelstrom, turbulence rocked the ship, lights flickering as shields strained against ionic blasts. Elara's hand found Marcus's again, a silent anchor, their recent closeness lending her strength. Drama built with each jolt, the planet's surface emerging below, jagged spires of obsidian rock piercing through perpetual dusk, ruins of ancient structures overgrown with luminescent vines that pulsed like veins. Sensors pinged life signs, massive, dormant forms buried deep. The true threat the purist had warned of. Landing was precarious, the ship settling in a crater shielded from the winds. Elara and Marcus led a small team out, suits sealed against the toxic air, her elegant figure cutting through the gloom with determined grace. The ruins loomed, etched with runes similar to those in the archive, telling of a cataclysmic war that had sealed away beings of immense power, hybrids of void energy and machine, precursors to the walkers. As they delved into a cavernous temple, holographic guardians activated, projecting illusions of terrifying beasts that tested their resolve. An awkward moment lightened the intensity when Marcus triggered a pressure plate, unleashing a harmless cascade of glowing dust that coated them head to toe. Elara sneezed delicately, her pointed ears dusted like fairy wings, and she shot him a playful glare. Human curiosity at its finest. She teased, brushing off his shoulders with a touch that lingered. He grinned, wiping her cheek. "Hey, it could have been worse, could have been slime." Their laughter echoed softly, a brief reprieve in the drama, strengthening their partnership. Deeper in, they found the chamber, a vast dome housing crystalline pods, each containing a slumbering titan, colossal figures with ethereal limbs and mechanical augmentations, their eyes closed in eternal rest. But one pod hummed active, cracks spiderwebbing its surface. "It's waking," Elara whispered, her body tensing against Marcus's side. The drama crescendoed as the pod shattered, the titan emerging with a roar that shook the ground, a being of shadow and steel, its gaze locking onto them with ancient malice. Battle erupted, the Titan lashing out with energy whips that scorched the air. Elara's psychic barriers held, her form twisting with effort, curves straining against her suit as she channeled power. Marcus activated his nanotech, blades extending to parry strikes, his movements a blur of human agility. They coordinated seamlessly, her telepathy guiding his dodges, his tactics exploiting weak points in the Titan's armor. In a thrilling push, they overloaded the chamber's controls, flooding it with suppressive fields that forced the Titan back into stasis. But not before it transmitted a signal, summoning others. As alarms blared, they fled, the temple collapsing behind them. Back on the ship, lifting off through the storms, Elara collapsed into Marcus's arms, their bodies entwined in exhausted relief. "We did it," she breathed, her lips finding his in a kiss that promised more nights of closeness. Yet, the signal's echo lingered, hinting at awakened forces converging on Vega. Their bond, forged in passion and peril, would be tested further, but for now, in each other's embrace, they found solace. The journey home was reflective, Elara and Marcus sharing quiet conversations about futures intertwined, dreams of peace where their worlds could flourish together. Her hand rested on his, fingers tracing patterns that evoked memories of their intimate moments, keeping the spark alive amid the stars. As Vega Prime appeared on the horizon, council alerts flooded in, alliances shifting, purists exposed. Drama awaited, but so did their unbreakable connection. As Vega Prime swelled into view on the Aurora's viewport, a jewel of crystalline spires and orbiting rings gleaming under the dual suns, Elara felt a knot of anticipation tighten in her chest, mingling with the lingering warmth from her time with Marcus. The council alerts scrolled relentlessly across secondary displays, reports of purist cells dismantled in the outer colonies, alliances reaffirmed with hesitant neighboring systems, and urgent summons for her to address the throne assembly. She stood on the bridge, her white hair neatly bound now, cascading in soft waves that framed her pointed ears, her form-fitting regal attire hugging her curves with an elegance that commanded respect. Marcus was at her side, his hand brushing hers in a subtle gesture of solidarity, his human presence a steadying force amid the swirling politics. "Home, sweet home," he quipped softly, his storm-gray eyes scanning the incoming data with that sharp intuition she had come to rely on. But beneath the surface calm, Elara sensed ripples in her telepathic field, subtle dissonances from the planet below, like echoes of unspoken secrets waiting to surface. The docking sequence was flawless, the ship gliding into the Royal Bay amid a fanfare of hovering drones and honor guards, their armor polished to mirror the stars. Elara descended the ramp first, her steps graceful yet purposeful, the air of Vega Prime filling her lungs with the familiar scent of ionized ozone and blooming ether flowers. Marcus followed, his Earth-adapted boots thudding softly on the crystalline floor, drawing curious glances from the assembled courtiers. Whispers followed them through the grand corridors, tales of their exploits on Nethuria had already spread, painting Marcus as the indomitable human savior, and Elara as the visionary princess who had bridged worlds. Yet, as they approached the throne chamber, a subtle unease gnawed at her, the psychic hum of the palace felt off, like a melody with a hidden discord. The assembly was in full session, holographic projections of distant lords flickering around the vast dome, their ethereal forms debating in melodic tones. At the center sat Elara's mother, Queen Thalira, her own white hair crowned with a diadem of pulsing gems, her figure a more mature echo of Elara's curvaceous grace. "Daughter," the queen intoned as they entered, her voice resonating through the chamber, "you return victorious. Yet the shadows linger, speak of Nethuria." Elara stepped forward, recounting the tale with poise, the Titan's awakening, the desperate battle, the suppressive fields that had quelled it. Marcus added details with his characteristic brevity, his words grounding the narrative in tactical reality, earning nods from the military advisors. The room buzzed with approval, but Elara caught fleeting psychic flashes from the crowd, doubt, envy, and something sharper, like concealed malice, as the session adjourned. Queen Thalira summoned them to her private sanctum, a serene enclave overlooking the planet's auroral skies. The queen embraced Elara warmly, her touch conveying layers of maternal pride through their shared telepathy. "You've forged a path few could walk," she said, then turned to Marcus with a measured gaze. "And you, human, your might has proven the alliance's worth." Marcus bowed slightly, his hand never far from Elara's, but as they settled into cushioned alcoves, sipping luminous nectar that warmed from within, the queen's expression shifted, subtle at first, then profound. "There is more you must know," she confessed, her voice dropping to a dramatic whisper that hung in the air like impending thunder. Elara's pointed ears perked, her body tensing against the plush seating, curves shifting as she leaned forward. "The purists' conspiracy runs deeper than we imagined. Their leader, is not among the captured. Marcus's eyes narrowed, protective instincts flaring. Who, then? We've exposed their networks. The queen hesitated, her porcelain skin paling slightly, and in that pause, Elara felt a psychic barrier crack, a flood of suppressed memories rushing forth. Images assaulted her mind, ancient rituals, forbidden experiments, and a face hauntingly familiar. "It is I," Thalira revealed, her words slicing through the room like a plasma blade. Elara recoiled, her heart stumbling in shock, while Marcus froze, his hand instinctively reaching for a concealed sidearm that wasn't there in this formal setting. The queen, her mother, had orchestrated the purists. The twist landed like a supernova's core collapse, compressing the air with its weight. But Thalira pressed on, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her eyes. "Not as you think. Centuries ago, before your birth, Elara, I delved into the Void archives, seeking power to end the Dravex wars. I awakened precursors to the Walkers, binding them to our bloodline for control. The purists were my veil, a faction I created to monitor and contain the fallout." Elara's world tilted, her telepathic bond with her mother fracturing under the revelation, flashes of hidden labs, suppressed reports, and the Titans on Nethuria not as enemies, but as extensions of Vexari legacy. You caused this," Elara stammered, her curvaceous form rising in agitation, white hair whipping as she paced. The surprise deepened. This wasn't mere betrayal, but a generational deception woven into the fabric of their empire. Marcus stepped between them, his human pragmatism cutting through the emotional storm. "Why reveal it now?" he demanded, his tone laced with suspicion, body coiled like a spring. Thalira met his gaze unflinchingly, because the signal from Nethuria wasn't a summons, it was an activation. "The Titans are my failsafe, but they've evolved beyond control. They're converging here to Vega Prime, drawn by our blood." The powerful twist unfolded further. Elara wasn't just a princess. She was a key, her psychic essence a beacon amplified by her union with Marcus. The human's hidden might, once a boon, had inadvertently resonated with the void energies during their battles, accelerating the awakening. "Your bond," Thalira explained, fused human resilience with Vexari void ties. "It's beautiful and catastrophic." Elara's mind reeled, surprise giving way to a torrent of emotions, betrayal, fear, and a stinging curiosity about her own heritage. She turned to Marcus, her hands clutching his arms, feeling the solid warmth that had anchored her through so much. "Did you know?" she whispered, her pointed ears flattening in vulnerability. He shook his head firmly, pulling her close, his embrace a shield against the revelations. "No, but we'll fix this, together." Yet, the twist's surprise lingered, reshaping everything: the wars, the alliance, their love, all threads in a tapestry spun by Thalira's ambition. As alarms suddenly blared through the palace, distant rumbles of approaching anomalies shaking the foundations, Thalira rose, her regal poise unbroken. "The Titans come for reclamation, but with your combined strengths, we can redirect them, turn guardians into weapons against true foes." Elara hesitated, her body pressing into Marcus's side for reassurance, curves molding to his form in a silent plea for stability. The surprise had shattered illusions, but it also ignited a fierce determination. If her mother had woven this web, she would unravel it. They hurried to the command nexus, the palace corridors alive with evacuating personnel, holographic alerts painting the walls in crimson warnings. Marcus interfaced his nanotech with Vexari systems, his fingers dancing over controls with urgent precision, while Elara channeled her psychic energy, probing the incoming threats. The Titans appeared on scanners, colossal shadows breaching orbital defenses, their forms a horrifying blend of ethereal mist and mechanical dread. "They're targeting the royal bloodline," an advisor shouted, but Elara knew the truth now. They sought completion, drawn to the void essence in her veins. In the midst of chaos, the twist deepened with a personal layer. Thalira revealed a final secret, projecting a hologram of Elara's conception, not natural, but engineered, infusing her with void potential to one day command the Titans. "You are the heir to more than a throne," her mother said, eyes pleading. Surprise hit Elara like a wave, her porcelain skin flushing as memories unlocked, childhood visions she had dismissed as dreams, now revealed as latent connections to these beings. Marcus's reaction was swift. He pulled her into a fierce hug, whispering, "You're still you, the woman I love, will use this." The battle loomed, but the twist had transformed it from external threat to internal reckoning. As the first Titan breached the atmosphere, its roar vibrating through the spires, Elara stepped forward, her curvaceous silhouette framed against the viewport, white hair billowing in the artificial winds of the Nexus, with Marcus at her side, his hidden might syncing with her newfound power. They prepared to confront the surprise head-on, not as victims, but as architects of their fate. Yet, as energy surged through her. Elara felt a pull from the Titan, a psychic link offering not destruction, but alliance. The ultimate surprise, the beings weren't mindless, they were sentient, seeking freedom from Thalira's ancient bindings. "Mother, what have you truly done?" Elara breathed, turning to confront the queen anew. Thalira's facade cracked, regret etching her features. "I sought protection. Instead, I created chains." Marcus activated defenses, railguns humming to life. But Elara held up a hand. "Wait, there's another way." Drawing on her bond with him, human adaptability meeting void heritage, she extended her telepathy, communing with the Titan. Visions flooded back, eons of servitude, a plea for release. The twist culminated in a heart-pounding choice: destroy them and preserve the status quo, or free them and risk reshaping the galaxy. In that suspended moment, surprise gave way to empowerment. Elara chose freedom, severing the bindings with a psychic surge amplified by Marcus's tech. The Titan paused, its form shifting from menace to majesty, then ascended, broadcasting a wave of gratitude that quelled the others. Vega Prime stood saved, but transformed, the Empire's secrets exposed, alliances redefined. Thalira abdicated quietly, her reign ending in humbled exile, while Elara ascended, Marcus her consort in a new era. The powerful twist had surprised them all, but in its wake, their love emerged stronger, a beacon across the stars. As peace settled, subtle threats lingered, distant signals hinting at unbound titans exploring the void. But for now, in the quiet of their chambers, Elara and Marcus embraced, bodies entwining in familiar passion, the surprise forging unbreakable trust. As the unbound titans ventured into the distant void, their signals fading like whispers carried on solar winds, Elara and Marcus lingered in the sanctity of their chambers, the afterglow of their embrace wrapping them in a cocoon of hard-won trust. The palace lights dimmed to mimic Vega Prime's natural twilight, casting a soft, ethereal haze over the room where silken drapes billowed gently from unseen vents. Elara's white hair splayed across the pillows like strands of captured starlight, her pointed ears still sensitive from the psychic surge that had freed the ancient beings, and she nestled closer to Marcus, her curvaceous form fitting against his with a familiarity that spoke of battles shared and secrets unveiled. His arm draped over her waist, fingers tracing idle patterns on her porcelain skin, evoking small shivers that blended the remnants of passion with the quiet relief of survival. "We changed everything today," she murmured, her voice a melodic thread in the hush, eyes searching his for reassurance amid the lingering echoes of her mother's revelations. Marcus pressed a kiss to her forehead, his human warmth a constant in the shifting cosmos. "For the better, those titans are free now, maybe they'll become allies instead of chains." But peace, even in this intimate haven, proved fleeting. A soft chime from the bedside console pierced the tranquility, its insistent glow pulling them back to reality. Elara sighed, propping herself up on one elbow, her body shifting with graceful reluctance, curves accentuated in the low light as she reached for the device. The message was from the Council's interim chamber, an emergency conclave at dawn to address the Titan's departure and Thalira's abdication. "They want us both there," she said, her tone laced with the drama of impending scrutiny, ears twitching as she sensed the undercurrents of palace intrigue through her telepathy. Marcus sat up beside her, his tousled hair and scarred shoulders a stark contrast to the room's elegant Vexari design, and he rubbed his eyes with a groan. "Great, more politics. Just what I needed after playing cosmic therapist to a bunch of ancient giants." His quip drew a soft laugh from her, a bubble of humor in the tension, but as they dressed, her in a flowing robe that hugged her form like liquid silver, him in a hastily replicated Earth-style tunic, the weight of the day ahead settled like a gathering storm. The conclave hall was an amphitheater of crystalline tiers, holographic stars twinkling overhead to simulate the Vega Nebula, filled with nobles whose psychic auras buzzed like a hive on the verge of unrest. Elara and Marcus entered side by side, her hand lightly on his arm, a united front that drew murmurs, some admiring, others laced with envy. The drama heightened immediately as interim Chancellor Vyark, a stern Vexari with angular features and a voice like grinding quartz, called the assembly to order. "Princess Elara, consort Marcus," he intoned, his gaze piercing. "The Titan's release has sent shockwaves through our alliances. Reports from the borders speak of Dravex fleets mobilizing, interpreting this as weakness." Elara stepped forward, her posture regal, but inside, her heart raced. The psychic feedback from the room was a torrent: doubt from traditionalists, fear from the commons, and a sharp spike of resentment from those loyal to Thalira's old guard. As she began her address, explaining the Titan's sentience and the choice for freedom over destruction. An awkward situation unfolded when a holographic feed glitched mid-sentence. The display, meant to show serene images of the Titans ascending, instead projected a looped clip from Netheria's ruins, Elara and Marcus in their dust-covered tumble during the ambush, bodies entangled in that unintentionally intimate heap. Gasps rippled through the hall, followed by stifled chuckles as the image froze on Elara's flushed face and Marcus's grinning quip. Not the visual aid I had in mind. Elara muttered under her breath, her ears pinning back in mortification, while Marcus cleared his throat beside her, his cheeks tinting with rare embarrassment. Technical difficulties, folks, nothing to see here, he added lightly, his human humor cutting through the awkwardness like a diffusing beam, eliciting a wave of reluctant laughter that eased the tension. Vyark, unamused, reset the feed with a wave, but the moment had humanized them, turning potential critics into tentative supporters. Yet, the drama escalated as accusations flew. A faction leader rose, his telepathic projection amplifying his outrage. You freed abominations tied to our blood, and this human, his might meddles with forces he can't comprehend. Marcus tensed, his hand instinctively hovering near where a weapon would be, but Elara placed a calming touch on his wrist, her curves brushing his side in subtle solidarity. The exchange grew heated, psychic debates clashing like invisible storms, until a scout's urgent hail interrupted, a live feed from the outer defenses showing Dravex raiders probing the borders, their insectoid ships swarming in opportunistic aggression. They're testing us now, Elara declared, her voice rising with dramatic fervor, but we'll show them Vega's true strength, united, not chained. The hall erupted in debate, alliances fracturing and reforming in real time, heightening the stakes to a fever pitch. In the midst of this chaos, another awkward interlude arose during a brief recess. Elara and Marcus slipped into an antechamber for a moment's reprieve, only to find it occupied by a flustered young aide fumbling with a replicator that spewed mismatched refreshments, earth coffee mixed with Vexari nectar, resulting in a bubbling, overly sweet concoction that overflowed onto the floor. "Apologies, Your Highness," the aide stammered, slipping in the mess and nearly colliding with Marcus, who caught him just in time. Elara couldn't help but giggle, her pointed ears quivering as she watched Marcus help the aide up with a pat on the back. "Easy there, coffee's tricky even for humans. Try decaf next time." The aide's wide-eyed gratitude turned the mishap into a light-hearted bond, a touch of humor that reminded Elara of Marcus's knack for turning blunders into bridges, even as the drama outside loomed larger. Refreshed, they returned to the fray, where Vyark proposed a bold counterstrike, a joint fleet to repel the Dravex, led by Elara and Marcus as symbols of the new era. Drama intensified with personal stakes. Whispers revealed that Thalira, in exile, had sent a cryptic message through back channels, hinting at hidden void caches that could tip the balance. She offers aid. An advisor confided, but Elara sensed the trap, her mother's ambition still threading through like a persistent vine. As the vote swung in their favor, an explosion rocked the palace, sabotage from lingering purists, breaching a lower level and sending debris cascading. Alarms wailed, nobles scrambling in panic, and Marcus pulled Elara behind a crystalline pillar, his body shielding hers instinctively. "Stay close," he urged, his voice a low rumble amid the turmoil. Her curves pressed against him in the confined space, adding an awkward intimacy to the danger. They dashed through smoke-filled corridors, Marcus's nanotech suit activating to scan for threats, while Elara's psychic senses guided them around collapsing sections. Humor peeked through when they encountered a blocked door, forcing Marcus to hack it with an improvised tool, a replicator fork jury-rigged into a pry bar. "High-tech human style," he joked, grunting as it bent comically before giving way. Elara rolled her eyes affectionately, her laughter bubbling despite the drama. "My hero with cutlery." They emerged into the command center, where loyal guards held the line against intruders, lasers flashing in a symphony of defense. The skirmish was fierce, heightening the drama to heart-pounding levels, purists cloaked in stealth fields ambushing from shadows, their fanatic cries echoing Thalira's old doctrines. Elara unleashed psychic blasts, her elegant form twisting with power, sending foes reeling, while Marcus engaged in close quarters, his blades whirring to disarm and subdue. An awkward climax came when a purist grappled with Elara, his grip slipping on her robe's slick fabric, causing him to tumble into a console that short-circuited spectacularly, sparks flying like fireworks. "Slippery when royal," Marcus quipped, helping her up with a wink, the humor diffusing the adrenaline as they secured the room. With the saboteurs captured, interrogations revealed the depth of the plot. Thalira's message was a ruse, designed to draw out loyalists for a final purge, but it had backfired, exposing vulnerabilities. Elara confronted the echoes of her heritage in a dramatic holocall to her mother, the queen's image flickering with regret. "You built this empire on lies," Elara accused, her voice trembling with emotion, curves heaving with restrained fury. Thalira's response was poignant. "And you will rebuild it on truth with him?" The connection severed, leaving Elara in Marcus's arms, the drama of family betrayal clashing with the warmth of their bond. As the fleet mobilized under starlit skies, drama coiled tighter, Dravex forces amassing, Titan's distant signals offering uncertain aid. An awkward preparation moment lightened the load when Marcus insisted on equipping Elara with a human-style harness, fumbling the straps over her curvaceous figure until she swatted his hands away laughing. "I can handle my own gear, you oaf." His sheepish grin sparked joy amid the tension. "Just making sure my princess is battle-ready and stylish." Boarding the Aurora once more, they launched into the void, the Empire's fate hanging in the balance. Elara stood on the bridge, her hand in Marcus's, the awkward mishaps and humorous respites forging resilience against the storm. Whispers of Titan alliances grew, promising dramatic turns, but for now, their unity was the greatest weapon. The border clash erupted in a blaze of energy, Dravex ships swarming like locusts. Elara commanded with poise, her psychic command sinking the fleet, while Marcus's tactics weaved unpredictability, human feints that baffled the enemy. Drama peaked as a massive Dravex dreadnought targeted the Aurora, its cannons charging with ominous glow. In a heart-stopping maneuver, Marcus piloted a shuttle diversion, drawing fire while Elara rallied reinforcements. Awkwardness struck when his comms glitched mid-taunt, broadcasting a garbled mix of battle cries and an old Earth song snippet, "We will rock you." The Dravex paused in confusion, giving the fleet a humorous edge to strike. Laughter echoed over channels, turning potential disaster into triumph. As victories mounted, a Titan silhouette appeared on scanners, ally or foe. The drama hung, Elara's void heritage pulsing in response, her body tensing against Marcus's supportive touch. "Whatever it is," he said, "we've got this." Their journey, laced with drama, awkward turns, and humor, propelled them forward, unbreakable, as the Titan silhouette solidified on the scanners, its massive form eclipsing the stars like a guardian reborn from the void's depths. Elara felt her void heritage resonate within her, a deep, humming pulse that synced with the being's approach, turning potential dread into a spark of hope. The Aurora's bridge was alive with focused energy, crew members at their stations exchanging tense nods, while Marcus stood beside her, his hand warm and steady on her shoulder, grounding her amid the cosmic uncertainty. The Dravex dreadnought loomed ahead, its cannons flaring with malevolent intent, but Elara's psychic reach extended outward, brushing against the Titan's consciousness like a tentative embrace. "It's not here to fight us," she realized aloud, her voice steady with dawning certainty, her pointed ears perking as visions flooded her mind. The Titans, freed from chains, offering alliance not out of obligation, but gratitude. Marcus squeezed her shoulder, his storm-gray eyes reflecting the viewport's glow. "Then let's make some new friends and end this." The battle unfolded in a tapestry of light and shadow. The Dravex swarmed descending with relentless fury, their chitinous hulls glinting under laser fire. Elara commanded the fleet with unwavering poise, her telepathic directives weaving through the chaos like threads of fate, positioning ships to exploit weaknesses Marcus had pinpointed with his human ingenuity, unpredictable maneuvers that turned the enemy's formations against them. Drama reached its zenith as the dreadnought targeted the Aurora directly, a barrage of plasma bolts streaking toward them like vengeful comets. Shields flared, the ship shuddering under the assault, and in that heart-pounding moment, Elara channeled her void essence, amplifying the barriers with a surge that lit her skin in a faint, bioluminescent aura. Marcus, at the tactical console, fired countermeasures, railguns enhanced with Titan-inspired tech from the archives, punching through the dreadnought's defenses in explosive cascades. The Titan arrived then, a colossal entity of swirling energy and reinforced alloy, its form adapting seamlessly to the fray. It didn't attack blindly, instead, it interfaced with Elara's mind, sharing tactical insights born from eons of existence, vulnerabilities in the Dravex armor, patterns in their swarm behavior. "They respond." Elara breathed, her curvaceous form tensing with exhilaration as she relayed the data. The alliance proved unbreakable. The Titan enveloped Dravex vessels in suppressing fields, freezing them in stasis while Vega's fleet picked them off. Marcus led a daring boarding party via shuttle, his nanotech suit gleaming as he infiltrated a key raider ship, disabling its command core with precise strikes. Back on the bridge, Elara watched his vital signs on the monitor. her heart swelling with a mix of fear and pride, her body leaning forward as if to bridge the distance. An awkward hitch in the triumph came when Marcus's comms crackled back online mid-infiltration, broadcasting not just his status but an unintended snippet of his internal monologue, muttering about these bugs needing a serious exterminator upgrade. The bridge crew stifled laughs, Elara's ears flushing with amusement as she responded. Focus, love, save the commentary for later. His chuckle echoed through the link, injecting a thread of humor into the intensity, reminding everyone that even in galactic warfare, humanity's spirit could lighten the load. The Dravex, caught off guard by the Titan's intervention, faltered, their swarm fragmented, ships retreating in disarray as the Allied forces pressed the advantage. Explosions bloomed like fleeting stars, the dreadnought crumbling in a final, spectacular implosion that painted the void in fiery hues. With the enemy routed, the Titan lingered, its presence a silent sentinel as it transmitted a final psychic message to Elara, a vision of peaceful exploration. The beings venturing into uncharted realms to forge new paths, their freedom a gift repaid in protection. Go with our thanks, Elara whispered, her void heritage settling into a harmonious calm within her. The entity faded into the stars, leaving Vega's borders secure, the Empire's future brighter for the bonds unbroken. Back aboard the Aurora, as the fleet turned homeward, cheers erupted across channels, but Elara sought solace in Marcus's arms, pulling him into a quiet alcove off the bridge. Her robe slipped slightly in the embrace, revealing the soft glow of her skin, and she kissed him deeply, a fusion of relief and lingering desire that spoke volumes without words. The return to Vega Prime was a procession of triumph. The palace spires alight with celebratory holograms depicting the battle's highlights, Elara and Marcus at the forefront, symbols of unity. The council, reformed in the wake of revelations, crowned Elara as queen in a ceremony under the twin moons, her white hair adorned with a crown woven from void crystals and earth alloys, a testament to their blended worlds. Marcus stood as her consort, his human attire blended with Vexari elegance, drawing smiles from the crowd who had once viewed him with skepticism. Drama softened into resolution as Elara, from her exile, sent a private message of quiet pride, acknowledging the Empire's evolution beyond her ambitions. You've surpassed me, it read, a closure that healed old wounds. In the years that followed, their reign ushered in an era of exploration and peace, alliances extending to distant systems, humans and Vexari collaborating on wonders that bridged stars. Elara's void heritage became a tool for diplomacy, sensing truths in negotiations, while Marcus's hidden might inspired innovations, adaptive tech that turned weaknesses into strengths. Awkward cultural clashes persisted, adding humor to their days, Marcus introducing Earth holidays like pizza night to the royal court, resulting in nobles fumbling with cheesy slices and laughing at the mess, or Elara attempting human dances, her graceful curves swaying to rhythms that left everyone in stitches. You're a natural at comedy, Marcus teased one evening, pulling her into a spin that ended in a tangled embrace, their laughter echoing through the halls. Their bond deepened beyond titles, nights filled with intimate explorations where her telepathic caresses mingled with his earthly passion, bodies entwining in rhythms that celebrated their differences. Children came, hybrids of worlds, with pointed ears and resilient spirits, heirs to a legacy of love over conquest. Elara often reflected on their journey, tracing Marcus's scars under starlit skies, her porcelain skin aglow against his warmth. From alliance to this, she murmured, her hand on his chest, feeling the steady beat that had anchored her through storms. He smiled, drawing her closer. Humans fuck yeah and Vexari too. Together, we're unstoppable. As ages turned, their story became legend, whispered among the stars, the princess who wed for peace, awakening a human's might that reshaped galaxies. In quiet moments, Elara and Marcus wandered palace gardens, hands linked, watching sunsets paint the horizon in vibrant strokes. No more shadows loomed, only endless possibilities, their love the eternal light guiding Vega forward. And in that harmony, the universe found its balance, a good ending woven from trials into triumph, where hearts across worlds beat as one.